Hello and welcome back to Typing Tuesday. Are you getting faster with your typing each week? Keep practicing as much as you can. This week, we will take a look at how to make a strong password for all your online accounts. We all use passwords every day when we are online, so it's super important to make strong passwords for your online stuff. Strong passwords keep your private things safe from bad people who try to get into your accounts. When you create strong passwords with lots of different letters, numbers, and special symbols, it's like building a strong wall that keeps your stuff safe from hackers. Using strong passwords helps you stay safe online, keeping your personal stuff private, and making sure only you can access your accounts. Is your password strong? How do you know? Does your password use any common words like the name of a pet, or even your own name? Do you use part of a phone number or birthday in your password? If so, this may not be as safe as you think. Take a look at this list of characteristics for strong passwords. Do you have at least 8 characters in your password? Do you use any words found in the dictionary? Do you use a mix of letters, numbers, and special characters? What about nicknames? Let's take a look at this short video on making strong passwords. Stay tuned after that for a message on the Anime Club and This Week in History. See you next week and have a nice day.
Hello, this is Mr. Simonton, letting you know we're going to be showing This Week in Anime Club. This week we'll be showing a double feature. Our anime are Strawberry Marshmallow and Bunny Drop, and both are wonderful depictions of the Christmas spirit. So I hope you can join us tomorrow, Wednesday, for a unique double feature for the Anime Club. Thank you very much. Welcome once again to another episode of Mr. Simonton's This Week in History. Starting off December 10th, 1896, the Swedish chemist Alfred Nobel died at San Remo, Italy. He's actually the man that invented TNT, or what we know as dynamite. His will stipulated or said that the income from his $9 million estate would be used for awards recognizing persons who have made valuable contributions to humanity. Sounds like a very noble goal. Nobel recipients are chosen by a committee by the Norwegian Parliament, so he was Norwegian. Prizes for peace, physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, and economics are presented annually, that means every year, in a ceremony in Stockholm, Sweden, which is kind of interesting. On the anniversary of his death, each prize is valued at about $1 million, so it's quite a bit of money to be had there. December 10th, 1898, the Treaty of Paris was signed between American and Spanish representatives following Spain's defeat in the Spanish-American War. Under the treaty, the United States gained the Philippine Islands, the islands of Guam and Puerto Rico, and an agreement by Spain to withdraw from Cuba. Cuba gained its independence. The treaty passed by single vote in the United States Senate on February 6, 1899, and was signed by President William McKinley about 4 days later. And here you can see basically the elements of it. So we gained Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines, but later we're going to give the Philippines their independence. We give Spain $20 million, and also they give up Cuba to its own independence. December 10th, 1941, during World War II, the British battleships HMS Repulse and HMS Prince of Wales were sunk by Japanese warplanes in the South China Sea, killing nearly 800 crewmen. So this occurs 3 days after the attack on the American forces at Pearl Harbor. We're going to have a special presentation of that in a couple of days. You can see in the images here, HMS Repulse is getting the crap beat out of it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bomb hits that are near misses, and there's 2 that hit near the stern of the ship. HMS Repulse, it's getting off pretty lucky. It's only been hit by 1 bomb here, but later it's going to be sunk by torpedo planes from the Japanese Air Force. December 10th, 1950, Dr. Ralph Bunche became the first African-American man awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for its efforts in trying to conduct peace talks between Israel and other nearby states the previous year. And there he is receiving his award from the Nobel Prize Committee. December 12th, 1901. The first transatlantic radio signal was transmitted by Guglielmo Marconi from Cornwall, England to St. John's, Newfoundland. Yeah, we think of instant telecommunications that we have today. We can talk to somebody halfway around the world. But this was a big deal back in 1901. December 13th, 1545, the Catholic Church found itself in some trouble after Martin Luther's Protestant Revolution. Actually, he kind of started it, but everybody else kind of carried it along. The Council of Trent, summoned by Pope Paul III, met to discuss doctrinal matters, that means policy matters, practice matters, if you will, of the Catholic Church, including the rise of Protestantism and how to combat that. And currently today, although Christianity is the largest religion on the planet, Roman Catholicism, partly through Pope Paul's efforts here, still remains the largest of the Christian religions with about 1.2 million people. Was that 1.2 billion, actually? December 13th, 1862, during the American Civil War, the Battle of Fredericksburg occurred in Virginia as the Union Army of the Potomac, under General Burnside, he's later going to get fired, suffered a costly defeat, losing 12,653 men after 14 frontal assaults. You think after the second one you'd get the idea. That's not a good idea. On well-entrenched rebels. Attacking a fortified position is never a good thing, and it hasn't been throughout history. This was on Marye's Heights. Confederate losses were only 5,300. If you can say any loss was only. December 14th, 1799, regrettably, our forefathers here, George Washington, our namesake for our school, passed away at Mount Vernon. He was 67 years of age. Kind of a, I hate to say it, but kind of a dumb way that he passed away. He had a very large plantation in Virginia. You can see it's December, so you know what the weather is kind of like. And he rode around for a couple of hours surveying his plantation, and he got caught in a somewhat rain/snowstorm. And when he got home, they were just serving dinner. So instead of being smart like you or I and changing out of his wet clothes, he remained in them for a 2-hour dinner because he didn't want to be rude to his guests. Well, the next day he wound up having a sore throat, and that turned into pneumonia, and regrettably he succumbed to that. So come on, George, wet clothes, change out of those. December 14th, 1918, British women voted for the first time in our general election and were allowed to run for office. The United States, as we usually are sometimes, lagging behind. Women don't get the right to vote until 1919 with the 20th Amendment the very next year. December 14th, 1962, the Mariner 2 space probe sent back information from the planet Venus, the first information ever received from another planet. We had sent probes to the moon, but never to another planet, so Venus was the first one. December 15, 1791, the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. That's what we've been working on here, and we're going to be working on in 8th grade. The U.S. Constitution became effective following the ratification or the formal approval by the state of Virginia. And here are the 10 items here. Only the first 8 are really probably the most important because it deals with individual rights. December 16th, 1773, my 8th grader saw me dress up as a Mohawk Indian here. The Boston Tea Party occurred as colonial activists, basically members of the Sons of Liberty, disguised as Mohawk Indians, boarded 3 British ships anchored in Boston Harbor and dumped 342 crates, 46 tons of expensive tea, about $1.7 million in today's money, into the harbor. And yeah, the British government kind of reacted rather harshly to them with the Intolerable Acts. December 16th, 1944, during World War II in Europe, the Battle of the Bulge began as the Germans launched a big counteroffensive in the Ardennes forest, which is in Belgium, along a 75-mile wide front, taking American troops completely by surprise. They were getting ready for Christmas. They thought the war was over. Nope. Aided by foggy, snowy weather, it actually happened to be the worst winter in Western Europe in 50 years. Talk about piling things on. The Germans moved 65 miles into Allied lines by the end of December. The German advance was eventually halted by British General Montgomery on the Meuse River, which is over here on the left-hand side, and by American General George Patton here at Bastogne as he moved in from the south. As the weather cleared, Allied aircraft attacked German ground forces and supply lines, and the counteroffensive failed, and that was going to be kind of it, although the war did go on for another 4.5 months. There was an estimated 77,000 Allied and 130,000 German casualties, so you can see what kind of some of the conditions were. Notable birthdays. Hold on to your hats, there's going to be quite a bit here. First of all, we have the poet Emily Dickinson. She was born in Amherst, Massachusetts. Her poetry became known only after her death, kind of regrettable, when her sister discovered nearly 2,000 locked in a dresser drawer, written on the backs of envelopes and scraps of paper. See, you can write anywhere. They were published gradually over the next 50 years, beginning in 1890. Next, we have the American librarian, Melville Dewey. He was born in Adams Center, New York. He invented the Dewey Decimal Book Classification System, advocated spelling reform, and urged the use of the metric system, which we still have not adopted. Next, we have John Jay. He's an American statesman. He was born in New York City. He was a diplomat and the first Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. He co-wrote with Alexander Hamilton and James Madison the Federalist Papers. He only wrote about 5 of them, whereas Alexander Hamilton wrote close to 50. It's because most of the time John Jay was in Europe negotiating treaties. Next, we have the abolitionist Lloyd Garrison. Sorry about that. He was born in Newburyport, Massachusetts. He founded The Liberator, which was an anti-slavery newspaper, in 1831 and published it for the next 50 years. Definitely a man against slavery. He also traveled throughout America delivering scathing, that means very brutal, anti-slavery speeches, even advocating that the North should secede from the South. Now, there's a novel idea because the South secedes from the North. In 1854, he burned a copy of the United States Constitution declaring, "So perish all compromises with tyranny." And yes, the Constitution actually did kind of guarantee slavery, which is kind of unfortunate. Next, we have the French physician Nostradamus, very famous for his predictions. He was born in Saint-Remy province, France. He wrote astrological, based on the movement of the stars, prediction in rhyme quatrains, which are basically 4-line poems, believed by many to foretell the future. Yeah, you can just about write anything, and if you massage it enough, you can make it fit what you believe. Next, we have the World War II general James Doolittle. He was born in Alameda, California, by San Francisco. On April 18, 1942, he led a squadron of 16 B-25 bombers, and there's one of them taking off there, launched from the aircraft carrier Hornet to conduct the first American raid of the war against mainland Japan. And he actually received the Congressional Medal of Honor for his efforts in doing that, and also he jumped a rank, going from lieutenant colonel at the time of the raid to brigadier general. So he launched 16 airplanes. It did minimal damage, but it was of huge psychological importance to both the United States and also the Japanese. It made them feel that they're not invulnerable anymore. He also headed the 8th Air Force during the Normandy invasion and was awarded the Medal of Honor, as I mentioned, which he's wearing here in a ribbon there. And there's one of the airplanes taking off there, and you can see the men on the Hornet. They're going up. He's not going to make it. We'd better turn the ship. And is he going to make it? Yes, he is. And off he goes to bomb Japan. Next, we have French engineer Alexandre Eiffel. Very famous, of course. He was born in Dijon, France. He designed the Eiffel Tower for the Paris International Exposition of 1889. When it was first going up, many Parisians thought it was just an eyesore, and they can't wait to have it torn down. And now it's an iconic representation of architecture that's known around the world. He also helped, believe it or not, the Statue of Liberty. So thank you, Mr. Eiffel. Continuing on, Ludwig van Beethoven, my favorite composer of all time. He was born in Bonn, Germany. He created powerful, emotional music and is widely considered the greatest orchestral composer who ever lives. People would argue Mozart because he had 40 symphonies and Beethoven only had 9. But I remember Beethoven's symphonies more than I do Mozart's. He suffered from hearing loss before he was 30 years of age, and by the time of his last, the 9th Symphony, he was completely deaf. In 1824, he conducted the 9th Symphony at its world premiere in Vienna, although he was unable to hear either the orchestra or the applause. In all, he composed 9 symphonies, 32 piano sonatas, 5 piano concerti, 17 string quartets, 10 sonatas for violin and piano, the opera Fidelio, the Mass in C major, and other chamber music. So quite a prolific composer. Next, we have the British novelist Jane Austen. She was born in Hampshire, England. She wrote love stories concerning the lives of the gentry, that means wealthy people living in the country, living in rural England. Best known for her works Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, and Emma, all of them turned into movies. In recent years, her works have been made into popular TV miniseries and movies, as I just said. 16th of December, we have the philosopher George Santa Anna. He was born in Madrid, Spain. As a child, he emigrated to the United States and eventually became a teacher at Harvard University. Scored quite a gig there. Best known for stating, and we haven't learned this lesson yet as human beings, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it, and we keep doing that. And lastly, we have the anthropologist Margaret Mead. She was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She studied primitive peoples in the Southwest Pacific and was known for her outspoken manner regarding social issues such as women's rights, child rearing, population control, and world hunger. So that concludes Mr. Simonton's This Week in History. Once again, I'm going to leave you with a musical tribute from my favorite composer. And this is going to be Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Probably has the most famous 4 notes in all of music history. So hopefully we'll see you again next week, and hope you enjoy this presentation of This Week's in History. I'm your host, Mr. Simonton. So long.